Hi, everybody. It's Helen Hillix from My Heart to Yours host. And today I am so excited to have as my guests Leadon Hershey and Julia Ensign. And I will tell you a little bit more about them in a minute. But the first thing I want to do is say hey to everybody and thank you for joining. I love you. I love my audience. I'm so excited about doing this podcast. I've gotten such amazing feedback so far, and it really lights me up and it motivates me to continue. So today's topic came to me about cultural issues. That's one of the things I want to include, even though it doesn't maybe seem like it's related to emotional and counseling kind of issues, but it really is, because what's happening in the culture affects us so much as individual people. And I invited Lee and Julia on today because they are in the gender fluid, non-binary world and are a couple. And I wanted to get their experience and what they believe is happening in the culture, what they see happening in their community, and what they experience in their own relationship. Just a peek into that world on a very personal level that most of us don't get a chance. And we have so many misconceptions about what it means to be non-binary or transgender or lesbian or gender fluid or all those things. We have so many mistaken ideas about it. And I wanted somebody that I love and trust, both Lee and Julia, to come on and talk about it and to share their experiences, to enlighten the community of listeners. And if you have any questions after the show, please feel free to email me at helen@helenhillix.com. I always want to hear from my listeners, and I know that Lee and Julia would be happy to answer any questions you have after the show too. So without further ado, I'm excited about what we're going to create today, and I want to introduce my two wonderful guests. I've known Julia since she was a teenager, which is like 20 years, because I'm good friends with her mother. And, I was excited when she partnered with Lee and came out, so to speak, and was much more self-expressed in her life. Both Julia and Lee are in the film industry, in the Hollywood scene. They do commercials and movies and production. Julia also does wonderful graphic design. And she does my graphic design. If you want to take a peek at it, you'll see how awesome she is. And they have just done a commercial with Mercedes. Lee just got a commercial with Jack in the Box, which is big business. And they also just filmed a music video with Madonna. So they're in the up and coming, awesome, already arrived, have exciting lives kind of category. And they have the same damn struggles everybody else does. So without further ado, I want to welcome you, have you say hi. And I'd like to start out with asking you about your thoughts about what's going on in the culture and about your own personal histories. I'd like each one of you to talk to us about, just a few minutes about your own personal history and how you came to this level of awareness about your sexuality and your identity. So say hi.
Hi, Helen, and hello, listeners. This is Lee here.
Hi, Lee.
Hello. Hi. Very, very nice and happy to be here.
And hi, Helen. Good to see you as always. This is Julia.
Wonderful. So why don't we start out with you, Julia, and tell us about your history and, again, just a few minutes about a background about how you came to this place in your life.
Sure, yeah. So I guess as far as, speaking on the topic, I grew up predominantly in heterosexual relationships, dating men throughout my life. And, there were times when I was connected with women at a very young age. And then as I got older, I kind of subsided it. And then as I started to grow into my later 20s, I was, just opening myself up to people more in general. And so that kind of led me to I was always in the West Hollywood, the gay scene in West Hollywood. My two best friends were gay men, and I was always very drawn to that scene over the heterosexual scene. So I kind of found myself being in that scene more. And then after some time, I ended up becoming an entertainer in the scene. So I was a go-go dancer in the scene. And from that point, it kind of just opened me up to just so many different people that were out there. And I was looking for love, and I just kept saying what I wanted, and voila, I ended up meeting Lee. And what's really great about that is, when I met Lee, I didn't really know, what their sexuality was or where they stood. I knew that they were born a female because at the time their name was different, which was much more feminine. But, as the years have developed, we've been together for 3 years. As of yesterday, 2 days ago, was our 3-year anniversary. And from the development of our relationship up until now is where I've now come to see who Lee is more and more. But just starting out, at least for me, in my relationships, is that, I guess I would consider myself a pansexual, which is not specific to any gender. They're open to any gender. It's more about the person. It's not about their sexual or their gender identity.
I want to stop you right there because I really like that topic and of pansexual. And I've said this for decades, that if we had no training, excuse me, to the contrary, I believe we would all be pansexual.
Agreed.
To some degree. It's fluid.
It's fluid.
But, on that continuum, we would all be experimenting with both sexes and whatever pansexual means it would be. And I've heard in the counseling world people talking about, they married a bisexual man, what can they do about that? They just discovered he's bisexual. And the real issue is, is he committed to you? Who cares if he's also attracted to
men? Yeah.
And vice versa. Who cares if you're attracted to other men? You're attracted to other men too. Mm-hmm. So, it really, I like what you're saying about being pansexual, that it's about the person. Who cares what quote unquote, sexual, biological genitals they happen to be born with? Who cares?
I mean, and then that's really, for me, it's, it's more so that, again, it's about the person, but I am drawn to a more feminine nature. That's something that I'm more drawn to. I really enjoy being with women more than men. But what's really great about the situation that I'm in now is that I get both with Lee, because Lee is gender fluid. So 1 minute Lee is complaining about period cramps or something, and then later in the day she's fixing my car outside, and I get two complete sides of the spectrum. And for someone who has been with both and who enjoys both sexes, it's sort of like a win-win for me. It's really great that I have both. But of course, as we can, talk about things, is that there are definitely ways in which it's difficult at times to be with someone who has a period, or someone who doesn't really see things the way that, in a man brain, I guess, would see things. So there are ways in which it can be more challenging at times. But I think what's also great about the situation is that Lee, throughout the years and, leading up till now and when we were together and even in our relationship, is Lee still discovering who they are. So that's what's really great about that fluidity, is that if Lee decides later that they want to transition and become a male and do certain things, like, I love Lee for who they are. So there are certain ways in which those certain things don't really matter so much. It's about that person's happiness. So
let me ask both of you, because you're referring to Lee as they, which is a gender fluid pronoun that is used now. And I think many people don't know how to use that, when to use that, and whether we are being offensive if we forget to use it or don't know how to use it. Can I get your thoughts on that?
Oh, of course. And you have to understand, grammar is confusing. People struggle with their, every single day. So it's just, what I find is actually people wanting to change, and people being open to the fact of, because we learn new words every single day. We learn music, we learn all kinds of things because we want to. But if people are not open to this term of it being so broad and, you know, covering the entire spectrum, you know, that's them set in their ways and them not wanting to adjust to the now. And you know, it's a 4-letter word, you know, they, them. It's not very hard. So I'm still, you know, learning how to exercise it every single day. And with myself, I'm situational pronouns because for so long, you know, it was only she for me. And when I did get called a little boy, it was always in a derogatory manner and a very malicious behavior. You know, it was never, oh, look at that cute little boy. It was like, oh, what, you trying to be a little boy? Or, you know, I get called a dyke or something like that. So I identify with he, she, her, them, they. I'm situational. Like I want it to be in the moment when we're together. And if I'm working on the car and you say he, I've had it so, it feels so good to me because it's what's coming out of your mouth at the time in the way I'm best representing myself and how you feel, you know. So that's my standpoint on they, them, and pronouns. You know, it's not hard for people to start using something that someone prefers, just like people calling me Lee and not by my birth name. You know, you got to want to change. You got to want to see the great and the beauty and everything evolving. You know, if you don't, you're not about love and joy and existence. You know.
Yeah. So go back.
To say they and them, which I've been practicing because, you know, for a while in the beginning of our relationship, Lee was always she because that's kind of what Lee has always been. And so there are times when I call Lee she and it doesn't feel right to me because Lee's not a she, at least in that moment. But in some moments, I guess in this moment, to me, they're a they because they're not necessarily doing something that's more masculine or more feminine in this moment. Or I just try to practice saying Lee because Lee's just as short, you know, it sounds like she or he. So I've just been.
You can avoid the whole issue.
I just say Lee all the time. And I actually do try to practice that when I am around other trans individuals because we are in a community with a lot of trans individuals or people who are in the middle of transitioning or they're gender fluid or they're non-binary. And there's so many ways that you can get confused. And I don't want to upset people because it's happened. I've called someone a she. I've been corrected when they were a he. Or they want to be called they, and it hurts. It hurts them. It hurts me. I'm not trying to be offensive at all. It's just this natural way of immediately thinking she, he, when a they is just as appropriate. So.
It's just raising awareness, and awareness comes in all shapes and forms and sizes. And, you know, it's, again, right now we're raising awareness, you know.
Right. That's the point of this whole podcast. You know, one of the things I'd like to throw into that you've sort of alluded to is that so much of it is about connecting to the person, period.
Yeah.
And you make a mistake and they say, I'd prefer to be called they, and you are genuinely connected to them and you say, I'm so sorry, I'm still learning, then it's like there's no offense taken in that kind of situation because everybody feels respected and cared about. You know, everybody's going to be making mistakes. I don't think that's the point. It's just what you said. If you care enough to try.
It's about having the compassion to change and to know that person is completely different than you. Different wiring, you name it. And you have no idea what they've been through and the journey that they've been on and what they're struggling with, you know, and we need to stop and relate more than ever. It's just relating. Yeah. That's even asking them, hey, what are your pronouns? And what's great is people on emails, on signatures, people are now putting their pronouns in signatures, heterosexual people, you know, and it's just like, wow, that's amazing. You know, like who would have thunk? Putting your pronouns in your signature could raise so much, you know?
Yeah, I want to emphasize something else too, because it's kind of paradoxical that yes, it's an individual, a different individual than you are, who's had different experiences and so forth. But I want to always emphasize that we are one, and that I don't care what your sexual orientation or identity is, we are much more alike than we are different.
Yeah.
We all need love. We all need validation. And if we can remember that, then we can begin to respect the individual differences, because it's based on what you were saying before. It's based on the caring. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your past, Lee, and how you came to where you are today.
Yeah, definitely. I grew up in Texas, in a very, very big, small town, city, not a lot of queer at the time. Then my family, we moved south to Houston, and I can remember for the longest time always feeling like a little boy. I always was out of body whenever I was very young. I was always out of body, watching myself, knowing that I just never felt like I was in the right body. I listened a lot as a kid. I observed so much, my family, racist and, not okay with gay people, and very Southern Baptist, so I was always just listening. And I remember being attracted to my kindergarten teacher, very strongly attracted to her, and not knowing why that was. And I started to notice a disconnect that I felt towards my parents, in a sense of, obviously I couldn't tell them that I was having these feelings at such a young age. I didn't want them to think that something was wrong with me, because I heard all these negative things that they would say, and they'd call people shims, and they would call them just these horrible things. So I figured, don't open your mouth. They're going to send you off to some like camp or something, like they're going to send you off to the pasture, basically, is what I was like, oh shit. And so I never did the whole thing that most girls do, and that's get drunk and make out with your girlfriends. And because that was going to be too real for me. I always took myself out of those situations. And I feel like I kind of limited myself on like very feminine moments or things of that nature, because I was always afraid of those feelings, because I never really felt connected to my feminine side. I always, I wanted to play in the dirt. I wanted to wear my boots, and, like I was a little boy. And, it wasn't up until my junior year of high school, 17, I got caught making out with the homecoming queen at one of my high school parties, and was very unexpected, was not my intentions. It was on her behalf, and that pretty much was the beginning and the last and worst part of my entire day of life, of existence, you name it. It started the hurricane, basically. And
Because you got exposed.
I got exposed, and I actually I got bullied really, really bad. And you have to understand, I was a jock. I played every sport under the sun. I kept myself extremely busy because of one of my upbringing was very rough, very bad, and I'm queer. So I tried to dive into anything I could to keep people's thoughts away from me being queer, and even my own. I try to suppress it as much as possible. As much as possible. And
Just sexuality in general, not just being queer, but
yeah. Oh yeah.
stay away from the whole topic.
Mm-hmm. And, I suffered hardcore, but really bad sexual abuse at a very early age. It started when I was 5, and it was very intense, very bad. And so I think in my head that I was active with boys pretty early age. I didn't have sex with boys or anything like that early or anything. But I had my boyfriends, and I had encounters, and, I was doing things, and, I think I did that because that was the only thing that I knew, and that I thought that was like going to cure me, that was going to make me better, make me okay. So I even kind of just housed and brought that negative, bad energy in my life like it was okay, So
You guys know, have you ever met anybody who didn't try to be heterosexual?
I've actually met a few people who have like tried
to
not see the gay in them. Or is that what you're saying?
No, because everybody I know has always gone ahead and done the heterosexual thing, even though they knew they were gay.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if anybody ever just skips that fucking step and goes straight to who they really are.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I know that have never been with men, the Gold Star lesbians, you name it. Like there's tons, but their intentions of why weren't they? That's what I'm curious about too. And so actually had a hate crime put against me by one of my best friends growing up. She egged my Jeep, and then she caused a lot of damage to me emotionally. And so I'm trying to keep the fact that I just kind of basically came out to my entire high school. It just spread like wildfire. And then I'm thinking, fudge. Now the kids know, of course they're going to go to their parents, and the parents are going to go to my parents. And then I'm going to get kicked off the soccer team. I'm going to get kicked. Like, these parents aren't going to want me to come over to their house to practice with their kids anymore. So like literally everything under the sun, I thought was just, I was going to hell. Basically, I was going to live in a modern purgatory hell. And
what did happen?
we ended up fist fighting, and it was really, really bad. But that fight pretty much was stemmed an epidemic of people coming out in my high school. I stood up. I didn't take it. And I hate that there was physical abuse. Absolutely hate that there was physical abuse. But walking into a situation and getting set up and having to fight in front of about 200 kids was unreal. I was literally met with a challenge, a duel. I fought this person for my own sexuality or my own preference. I fought a best friend whose father was a constable of our city, and I had known since the second grade. But because she wasn't okay with the fact that I was kissing a girl, she egged my Jeep. She made my life a living hell, and she wanted to inflict pain on me. She didn't just want to inflict pain on me. She wanted to inflict pain on me in front of other kids. She wanted to bring me down, and I wasn't going to let that happen. I did it for so long with my family and my friends that I was so tired of hiding, Helen. Like I was so tired of seeing, like trying to figure out even what the fuck I was or what I am. And I just put both feet down and was like, nope, this is it.
Not this time.
Yeah.
What occurs to me is that woman, that girl, was probably angry at being attracted to you herself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she was fighting against.
Or being jealous that I went through with it, that I did kiss someone, and that it
wasn't her.
Yeah. Or and
who knows?
So long story, my parents didn't find out for a little bit, and I actually kept it pretty good secrets. I think a lot of the kids' parents expected it, but I think they knew of my upbringing, and I think they knew how hard of a time I was already having at home. So I think my friend's parents kind of let me be that deliverer, or be that messenger of that, so that was just, it was a lot. I had a very hard, very rough childhood, high school, college, just, especially because it was all based around my sexuality and me coming out, my everything,
That's such an interesting point right there. Is so damn much of the energy is spent on who the fuck you are sexually. It's like, can you see anything else?
Yeah.
Can you appreciate my talents, my gifts, my strengths? Is it all about sexuality?
I think back, and you're right, Helen. It has been, and it's something that's been abused. It's something that's been taken. It's something that's been in the inquiry for so long, and it's like, where did this all stem from? And it's like, why am I feeling this? And like, why is my dad so afraid of it? Like, what scares him? Like, does he feel feelings, and I know my mom's been with girls. My mom is like, she openly talks to me about it, and it's just, it's bizarre that someone can just take such offense to, you know, someone's own preference that you don't even have anything to do with, you know, and that's why.
Well, I think it has to do in our culture anyway that we are so brainwashed, and it relates exactly to what you were saying earlier, Lee, that if you don't fit in to this prescribed formula, then you're going to be thrown out by the tribe.
Oh.
And if you're thrown out from the tribe, then it triggers this deep primitive terror inside us, because historically, you know, in the caveman days, if you were thrown out of the tribe, you literally would die immediately.
Yeah.
You would be dead. And so that's how it feels. It feels like if we get thrown out of the tribe, we're going to die. And that is a pervasive fear in our entire culture. So these people that are so adamant about it, it's like they have to prove they are not bad, you know, so that they can be saved, or they can, you know, not go to hell, or not be thrown out of the tribe, basically.
Yeah. And
it triggers something very deep in people.
playing sports and doing these things and like trying to follow my dad's footsteps. It was like me trying to make sure they knew I was worthy enough, or I was, you know, I wasn't broke, basically. Like,
Right.
you know,
You don't mean fiscally, you mean you weren't
yeah,
broken.
not fiscally, but
You
like
weren't broken.
I wasn't broken. And yeah, it was just, it's always been a struggle. It's always been, you know, there's a lot of, there was so much manipulation on my dad's end. He didn't want to support it. My mom did. And my dad had the money. My mom didn't. I wanted to go live with my mom. My dad took everything away. You're not going to be able to play college ball anymore. You won't be able to go to college to play ball because you won't be able to afford to play for your club, and you won't be able to afford to drive there. And so, and that had always been a thing, you know, and like, who knows if I maybe would have come out earlier if I lived with my mom. Who knows that? But I never got that chance to even fully be with my father or my mother because there was so much manipulation on my father's behalf.
And I'm sure your story, you know, we could spend this whole time talking about your story, but
Yeah.
I want to move on because
of course.
I appreciate your story though, and I hope it helps other people who are listening and helps them. I'm sure people are going to resonate with it.
Of course.
But I want to move on because I want to get to the part where you get to be yourself.
Yeah.
And how that happened, you know, how did you get to be yourself? How did you know?
I moved out of Texas.
Amen, sister, you know, no offense to people in Texas.
None, zero. But honestly, I don't think I would have come out as gender fluid if I wouldn't have moved out of Texas and come to California. A lot of things changed. I moved to California November of 2015, and the moment I moved out here, it's like my eyes were wiped. I wasn't wearing these blinders anymore. And I was like, wow, there's a trans, there's a trans, there's a trans. Oh my, I'm like in heaven here, you know? And
I found my peeps.
Yeah. Like, here is my tribe. Not that my tribe wasn't in Texas at all. Of course, I love my roots, but there's a lot of closed-mindedness, you know, and there's a lot that I put on myself being there. And I needed a fresh set of eyes, and I need to clear my lungs, you know, and I'm out here. I've been out here for, you know, like I said, 3 years, but it wasn't until about a year and a half being here, I came out as gender fluid, and it made sense. I was like, whoa, wait. You mean to tell me that like I can openly say that I feel like a boy and a girl, and that's okay? I can say that without feeling like I'm not going to have anybody to relate to or I can talk to, because literally anyone around me in a vicinity, like a general vicinity of a mile, is exactly, they share and relate with me, you know? And who's to say I go back home to Texas and I find that as well. But I think I needed the support of the free love and life that California holds and offers. And it just is, you know, I never had that. Never.
Well, I think that is so clear that in order to be who we are, we need support. period.
And growth.
No matter who we are, whether you're gender fluid or you're not, if we don't get support, and that's really what this show is all about, helping people make peace with the fact that we all get to have support. We're all worthy of it. And it's an important piece of our process to get support. Otherwise, we are just floundering around with whatever our little brain knows.
Yeah.
Which is not that much.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the community and some of the issues that you alluded to it earlier, Julia, about how sometimes it's hard to be with a gender fluid person who has periods or whatever it is that seems a little shocking in the context of all your other experiences with Lee. But can you talk about some of the other issues that you think do challenge you as a gender fluid couple, or do you think there are any?
I would say there are definitely challenges personally in our relationship. Not that they're a challenge. I just realized, wow, this is very different than, other relationships that I've had, because, everyone else that I've dated was very clear about their gender. They were either a male or a female. So Lee's the first person that I've been in a relationship with and been intimate with who feels as if they are both. And there's a fluidity. That's what's so great about the term gender fluid, is that it could be 1 second to the next. It could be one day. It could be a week. It's very fluid. And the challenges, I would say, is sort of almost like checking in, like, okay, so where are you at today? Am I supposed to give you more compassion? Am I supposed to be more loving and sensitive to you because you're being a little bit more on the feminine side? Maybe you're PMSing or your hormones are doing something. Or do you need me to be more submissive? Do you want to take charge and go clean up something or make something for me? And, do you want me to be a little bit more like that? So sometimes there are ways in which it's a bit of I'm not exactly sure how to approach it at times. And I just have to check in, see how they're doing. What is it that they're, and I'm pretty good about being able to check in and, intuit sort of what's going on in that situation. So I wouldn't say that there's necessarily challenges, just sort of things come up.
You have to have a lot more. I don't say you have to. I feel as though communication always is key. Any relationship, that. And so I feel like in our situation, like Julia said, I'm very fluid. I could be very dominant, very masculine one moment, and then I'm crying just looking at Baxter another moment, and it's up and down, or like she said, it could be spread out. But the communication and studying your partner is key. We're learning every single day. And with me, like I said, I'm evolving every day. I can't tell you that I'm this or I'm that, because I don't even know anymore. I didn't even know before, so and why do I have to know now? Why can't I just
I agree with you. Why
can't I just be this person that I've always known that I've been since I was little, and just I want to go back and harness that, because that was the most happiest time I ever was in my entire life, is just being.
Well, and I want to, it's interesting because I want, related back to the pansexual conversation, I think also we are all gender fluid to some degree. I mean, I like to change our garbage disposal. I like to work on the car, and I don't feel like I am a man exactly, but I have a lot of very masculine traits that have been.
I was just going to add to that too, is that being with someone who's gender fluid sort of allows me to harness my, more masculine or stronger sides, because I am very dominant and very aggressive and powerful in a lot of ways in my life. And there are a lot of ways in which I'm not that way. So it's great to be able to sort of it's not that I'm gender fluid at all, but there's a way in which I feel as if I'm allowed to sort of just be, as well as Lee is just being. And there are ways in which I can be the more dominant, powerful one if Lee is sort of, needing to take I don't know if it's a back seat or, but just to be a little bit more submissive, or I don't know what the right terms are, but
Yeah, I don't care about the terms either, but the
Terms.
point.
I don't know.
Who gives a shit, like, but people
Well,
do.
exactly. And that's the point that I'm making is it's like, okay, I understand that you're having a different experience than I am, Lee. Excuse me, but it's like I was saying earlier, I think there are still so many similarities, and that all of us are on a continuum of the masculine and feminine. And if we were not, again, it's just like who to have sex with, if we were not taught that we should fit into this box as a woman or this box as a man, we would be so much more gender fluid. I mean, my husband is very sensitive, way more sensitive than I am. I mean, way more sensitive than I am. And
that's how we are. Lee is
I
much more
so
sensitive.
Yeah. And it's like, I think he experienced feeling not man enough a lot of times in his life because he's so sensitive and intuitive, and he doesn't like to fix the car. He doesn't do anything handy. That's all me in our relationship. I'm the handyman, and he doesn't, he reads and things, much more passive kind of things. But it's like, who gives a shit? It works.
As long as it's getting done and we're not killing each other, and who cares, and
exactly. And that's one of the things I want the listeners to get out of this show is not just accepting this separate group of people that are gender fluid, but to say, fuck that. We are all gender fluid. We are all gender fluid. It's just, again, it's on a continuum. And if we could just say, we're all part of the oneness. Some people manifest it this way. Some people manifest it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I know you had something to say, Lee, and then I want to get on to the issue of the actual sexuality and the whole, I don't know if it's an urban myth about bed death or what, but I want you guys to talk about that. But did you have something else you wanted to say?
I was just going to say, before I came out as gender fluid and before I really even thought of that, I've always said that, I'm androgynous. I'm androgynous because it's having qualities of a man and a woman, masculine, feminine. So, for any viewers out there that are listeners, I feel like me saying I was androgynous was like another,
and then it was
I'm getting there.
Your name.
I'm getting there. And then I figured out I was gender fluid. And then I was like, oh my gosh, my name is right then in the middle, so just, there's no right way or any other way to figure yourself out, but
yeah, it's getting the support. It's getting the support to be who you are. And, one of the reasons I feel so strongly about the fact that we have so much more in common than we do differences is because I think sometimes we end up getting put in a box in another way.
Mm-hmm.
Once you identify as gender fluid, that it's like, then you're in a different box.
Yeah.
And, I hope someday we don't have to have any of these categories.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like, we in the community, the LGBTQ community, all we want is to be accepted. All we want is to be equal. And yet, we put ourselves in our own box. So here we are, we've actually entered the motherland. We're happy, we're out, we're happy, we're queer. And then it's like, wait, you lesbians have to hang out with the lesbians. You gays have to hang out with the gays. And the trans aren't allowed to the lesbian parties when this lesbian was a lesbian and then they transitioned. So now they're a man, but now you don't want them at your party? Who are you to say that is even okay?
I mean, it's all.
So there's more boundaries, and it's not just in the heterosexual community. It's everywhere. We do it to ourselves. We click up when there's no need to.
Exactly. We click up. And I was on another podcast. A friend of mine interviewed me about shame and anyway, I don't want to get off into that, but part of what we were talking about was that someday we're not going to have nationalities. There's not going to be that box. Someday we're all going to be brown. There's going to be one race. There aren't going to be redheads or whatever. It's all, and all these various skin colors, we're all going to be brown. And it's like the same thing. Someday we're all going to probably be pansexual and gender fluid to a much greater extent. There won't have to be any of these labels that we put on people. And we can actually get to, how do we find spiritual happiness can be the problem, instead of
Exactly.
gay rights and black rights and feminine
Let's have a
rights.
gender reveal party. Like, what? Get out of here.
Yeah. But, this to me is just part of it. It's another part of it. But it's just like the civil rights movement was back in the 60s. It's like the LGBTQ, did you say IA?
Plus. Right? IA plus.
Anyway, they're just adding on all the letters, whatever that community is. It's like you've had to fight for those rights, just like civil rights. Between the blacks and the whites, it's like it's an important part of the process. And I hope someday we can get beyond it.
Oh,
yes,
same.
Agreed.
It's, one day at a time. We're slowly getting there.
Things have changed astronomically.
Things have changed astronomically. I remember just crying when I walked down the street when I would be hiking in my neighborhood, and the whole gay marriage issue got defeated the first time.
Yeah.
And I just remember crying and just thinking, how can you do that? And I was so elated, when it passed shortly thereafter, and friends of mine got to get married, and it's just so, it was just, such a beautiful moment for humanity.
Yeah.
Gives me hope, it gives me hope, because sometimes I feel, makes me cry, sometimes I feel so hopeless about it. It's like, when are we going to wake the fuck up?
Exactly.
And just love everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh my God, it's 11:30 already.
Wow, we're having fun.
I know it. I do want to talk briefly about the whole, is it a myth about bed death between?
I don't think it's a myth. I believe it is real. I know quite a few friends, and especially older.
Well, can you say what it is? Because
I haven't done my research, but from what I've heard down past the telephone, is where two women are together for short amount, long amount, and the sex stops, or it's very limited. And I feel like you were saying earlier, women are very emotional. Women like to be attached to their partner when they make love, when they have sex. How many movies have we seen where the woman is just laying there like, is this gonna be over soon? Because it's like, women have to connect. Women like to look each other in the eyes and really, really be sensual. But if one is in the beginning of their period, the other one is not on the end, it's like, you really have to sync up. And I feel, there have been times where we haven't been sexual because, I feel off, or she feels off, or we've been fighting or something like that. And you have to think, two women that are together with two, reproductive systems, like that's a lot together. It
causes quite a bit of havoc at times. I would definitely say that.
I love your transparency. I really appreciate that.
I don't think there's let me think about this for a second. Do you have anything to say?
I have something to say, so I'll go ahead and you can hop in later. A couple of things occur to me. Number one, and this is a whole other topic. Maybe we'll talk about it on a different podcast, but the whole topic of sex has become so fucking huge in our society. And it's like, and we are made to feel like if you're not having sex like a rabbit, there's something wrong with you. And it's like, why do we even fucking call it bed death? Maybe you really do love having sex together, and several things can be going on. One is that there are issues that need to be cleared up. And this is true for any couple,
Oh
it's
yeah.
true for my husband and myself as well. And we've gone, it doesn't matter that I'm 69 and he's 72. We still have the best sex of my life anyway than any of my younger years. But we go periods of time when we don't have sex, and it's like, we don't care.
Yeah.
We fucking don't care. And it's like, that's part of it is, yes, sometimes it would be a manifestation of our connection and real soul connection to be more sexual. And then in that case, you get to look at what it is that's blocking you. And I personally do not think it is specific to, lesbian couples or gender fluid couples in which there are two biological women. I think it is more that without that testosterone, that is that penetrating, gotta have sex all the time energy, that you kind of just get into a different kind of rhythm. And,
I
maybe
definitely agree to that. I mean, I can at least attest to it that I can, since I've been in both relationships, that, it becomes, I have a partner in my life now. I have someone who I do everything with. They are my best friend. They are my partner. And it's an amazing feeling. And I've always wanted it. And what makes it different than other relationships that I've been in, where it was predominantly about sex, we didn't really have a connection. We didn't maybe see each other that much, or whatever the cases may be, then yeah, it was mostly about sex. Which, is not the main part of our relationship. It's a great part of our relationship, but there are so many other things that are just so much more important, or at the forefront, at least with what we're working on. Because, after 3 years of being together, there's a lot of shit coming up now, right? It's like, and also there's shit that's coming up because of what we're working on personally. So there's so many things that we are working on daily to try to better ourselves, that like, sometimes the last thing that I'm thinking about is wanting to just let loose and experience and have sex together. I'm just like, I need to lay down and go to bed. So,
I'm with you, sister.
It's like, it's not just because, that we have two female reproductive systems. That is a part of it, of course, makes sex different and interesting. And that just adds to it for me. So
yeah. And, I feel like sometimes, again, I'm doing a lot of self-healing, a lot of rework, working with Julia and her parents and everything like that. So sometimes it's hard for me to be sexual because I'm still figuring things out. And, I have a lot of healing, like I said, a lot of past trauma that I'm healing from.
Right.
And, it is hard for me sometimes to be sexual because, like, I guess maybe sometimes I feel like I'm not worthy again of it, or like it's something bad, because it was bad. It was so bad, for me at a very early age. So like,
I love that. I love that what
Yeah.
you're saying right there, Lee, because I think that also that societal pressure of what you're doing is bad. And then even though that's a lot less than it used to be, as well as a lot of trauma, and I know a lot of women who are non-binary or who are lesbian have had a lot of trauma in their childhood. So I think, we're bringing it up kind of from all different angles. And I love that. That's why I wanted to talk about it, is I want my audience to hear that sexuality is it's such a fluid thing in every way. Another way that it's fluid is that, sometimes we go through periods where we have a lot of sex, and sometimes we go through periods where we don't have any for a long time, and it's all okay.
Yeah, wait, what book do I need to read that you're going to tell me that this is, you're having enough sex, or, hey, check off that mark, you're doing good. Like, where the hell is my guide sheet to having sex or growing or living and all this? No, because there's not one. So society needs to quit making up these fucking sheets that you need to check, like, be your own.
Exactly. There's something wrong with you if you're not having X amount of sex.
Yeah,
and
and
what
that's
is
like,
that X? It's like, I mean, I love this story. My sister, her ex, this was, 40 years ago, but her husband said he wasn't attracted to her because she had gained weight. And she said, well, exactly how much weight do I need to lose? Is it 10 pounds? Is it 9 pounds? Is it 15 pounds? And then magically you'll start being attracted to me again. it's the same kind of thing. It's like we are attracted to each other as whole people. And if we could get over all these societal bullshit about you're only attractive if you look like this, or you're only attractive if you do it this way, or you're only good if you have it this often. I mean, it's just like a whole thing.
Oh yeah, and I can even talk with you like about that real quick. A friend of mine I played high school soccer with, I'm looking at pictures of her and her husband yesterday and their kids, and she's gotten very, very large. Definitely not what she used to be. And in my head, I'm like, oh wow, like I hope he doesn't leave her with the kids. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Whoa, buddy, why did you just come to that? Like, get that out, and that's just old conditioned thinking and shit.
Absolutely. That's what our society says.
But the fact that little voice in my head came up and was like, no, why are you even thinking that? It's just like, I can hear the voice, and it just feels good to rewire and to
be aware.
Because there are some people out there where awareness is just non-existent.
Not on the agenda.
So true. And I think that's a really good place for us to stop, is that talk, because that's what this show is really all about. Today and every other episode, it's about awareness. Because without awareness, humanity is fucked.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we are seeing, the awareness about the climate, about pollution. We're coming to a really critical place, whereas if we don't wake up, we are going to kill
doomsday.
Doomsday. We're going to kill off humanity. So I really appreciate so much you guys being on today. I just can't thank you enough. It's been so much fun talking to you. I feel like we got really warmed up in the last, 25, 30 minutes, and I wish we could just go on and on, but our listeners are probably tired of listening.
Yeah.
So we get to stop for today. And, I'd love to have you back on some other time and talk about a million other things.
Of course.
So thank you so much. And
thank you for having us. We hope that your listeners enjoyed this, and you enjoyed, and we got everything under the gun of what you wanted to talk about. Absolutely. You want to say any final things that you want to leave the audience with, Julia? Even if you're 5, you're 12, you're 49, 72, it does not matter if you are just now finding yourself in your own truth. Try to stand next to it as much as possible. Don't be afraid of it. And every day is a new experience and a new chance to grow and raise awareness. Just try and stand in that and be who you are and be your truth, because it is such a great time to be alive. And get support. All the support, please. Any way you can, any way that you can. Get support. Julia.
I mean, everything that Lee just said really is it's exactly what we're working on right now and what we have been working on. And it's something that we just wish upon everyone else too, is to just learn who you are, be the truest self that you can be, living your truth, because there's so many things that can hold you back from really trying things or going for the person that you're interested in because of what everyone else is going to think. And, you could worry so much about what everyone's going to think. And really in the end, they usually don't care. Really, or they're not in your life. Or they don't. It's like they're not paying your bills. They're not having to. True. Like, just do what's going to make you happy. Follow your light, and things will just fall into place for you. Thank you. I love that, and thank you, everybody. I love you so much, and thank you for listening. And I will talk to you next week. Bye. Bye-bye.